The Valorant's a game where you can lose regardless of how well your practices are going or what kind of form you're in. You can
Mhm.
just lose to an opponent that plays better that day. People start to individually start doing and calling things and calming things and making decisions that lead to the round slowly falling apart.
FNS! Welcome on, brother. A tough day, unfortunately, once again, and I just hate that we keep eating like this. It's it's not, but nonetheless, though, let's go ahead and get into it and get it out of the way, bro. What's up, man?
Yep. I mean, it sucks. Sucks to be in this position, but we put ourselves in this position. Didn't execute the way we should be doing with the talent that we have on this roster. And for me, I personally had a bad game, which sucks.
Mhm.
It's very hard to, find any positives right after a game. You kind of have to look back and see what happened. But yeah, not doing too well, but it is what it is.
I agree. Yeah, it's tough when you look back on a loss like that, where it was a slow climb and then into an eventual rise, and then fortunate fall right afterwards too, where so many things just felt so closely and right out of your grasp of your hands, right? Now, those I
Yeah.
find those can feel the toughest to recover from, but we'll see what we can do today. Now, just to go start off too, I remember I was talking to Sam about this, I believe about last week as well too, after 100 Thieves and so on. And one of the biggest things was the idea and the concept of slow starts, right? That's been a big identity of 100 Thieves. I'm sorry, that's been a big identity of NRG, especially when you saw in games like 100 Thieves as well too, right? And so many of the series you played so far. Now I understand it's not the most ideal thing, but it does seem as though that with the slow starts you have, you guys almost tend to scale upwards off of it too. So I was wondering your thoughts on it as well, because I'm not sure it's purposeful. I doubt it is, but it's more so just a trend I've noticed, if anything.
So I think, okay, well, the slow starts do two things. It makes you question your own game plan, and it also kind of gives the momentum to the opponent, regardless of if they're supposed to be better or worse than you are.
Mhm.
They feel they're on equal footing the second that we get off to starts like that, and I think that hurts us a lot. So obviously, it's a huge problem that we've discussed. We've tried to figure out like ways around it, and a lot of it just comes down to our discipline and the things that we need to remember, but for some reason forget when it matters most. Um, we practice a lot of these protocols, post plant retakes.
Mhm.
There's so much that we practice. It's actually unbelievable. And it's some of the best practices I've ever had on any team. But for some reason, um, it doesn't always show in matches. And I think that's a big thing. And I don't think it has anything to do with people being nervous. I think people are either, we're just getting stuck between doing too little and doing too much.
Mhm.
And I think maybe that has to do with the flow of like the round itself. And, there I could point out like 4 different rounds just on the first map where if they which they should have gone our way 100% of the time in every scrim we play, most of the time they go our way because we just have the discipline to make the correct call in those situations, and every single time we overfought or made the wrong decision in terms of where we were gonna pivot to, and when that kind of stuff happens and you make those mistakes, you start to kind of question what's going on. Like, why are we doing this and what's happening? And then obviously the opponent builds up ult points, they'll build up their confidence, they start running their set plays, and we end up playing to the level of our opponent, basically, and give them the momentum to play even better than we did. So I think it sucks. Honestly, I don't even remember your initial question. I'm just venting. It blows because there's nothing you can do to change it afterwards. You're now at a break for 2 months. Obviously, that sucks, but we did it to ourselves. I mean, we lost to Cloud9, a team we should be beating, at least on paper, and then we lost to Crew. So we gotta bite that bullet and then focus up on and try to work on the things that we went wrong.
Well, hey man. I think my question is simply a prompt, and I am all for whatever thoughts you had in your head. And at least, hey,
Yeah.
if anything, it makes my job easier, bro. So thank you.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't make yours easier though, which is the hardest part here necessarily. All I can do is
Oh,
provide the space for you. Uh, Nonetheless, aside from that though, is you did allude to it a little bit too, and it's something that I personally warned about as well. Where that's one thing I've heard pretty consistently off of every single one of your teammates, right? Is the practice specifically has been some of the best because it's not as though you guys are unnecessarily ramming your head into all 12 hours a day, right? You guys
yeah.
you guys practice in the most effectively way possible, right? Which is like it's 5 hours good, clean, you're focused, you're locked into. And you
Mhm.
mentioned how it's going extremely well for you all too. And is it just a matter of translation over what you get done there to what's being done in front of our eyes, or is there a gap we're missing? You think?
Truthfully, it's hard to point out before watching the VOD itself, but just based off the rounds I remember we messed up,
Hmm.
it obviously is a translation issue. I just don't know how to even go about trying to fix that because it genuinely just comes down to team synergy, the confidence players have in themselves,
Hmm.
the decisions they end up making. And I think there are certain scenarios that we've gone over like 50 times and talked about and then don't end up doing it. And for some reason, it always comes down to like, why didn't we do it? Like, it just makes no sense. Why did we do this instead?
Hmm.
Why are we peaking like this? Why are we 1v1ing? Why is no one saying anything? Why are we pivoting here? It's just a lot more questions than we have answers. So I mean, this is what happens when you lose. Like the Valorant's a game where you can lose regardless of how well your practices are going or what kind of form you're in. You can
Hmm.
just lose to an opponent that plays better that day. And today, Crew just played better, so I don't want to take anything away from them. But it's pretty inexcusable for us to be in this position for our organization, for our fans who expect way more from us, and even for us who expect a lot from each other. So it's just disappointing to be in a situation where a lot of our practices don't translate.
Yeah, I understand the wholeheartedly, right? Where it's like it's just you've seen the the power, I would say, just the talent, and I think more so just the potential that I find
Yeah.
that everybody has exclaimed that this roster could have, that this team could have, that you could have and have had, right? Like the things you guys have all managed to get done, which is incredibly impressive, right? And I
Yeah.
find your resume and your pedigree precedes you. But it is truly a travesty to be land here today once again. But I remember I said this to, and unfortunately, I've been in some tough positions throughout the entire split where I've had to say this to a lot of teams, where it's like, hey guys, the year is very long from
Yeah.
what we observed, right? And
Yeah.
and unfortunately, kickoff is the most unforgiving format within Valorant as of right now, uh,
Mhm.
which is just shit. Now, going back, I would have been nice, but of course, I mean, you guys are experts in making lower bracket runs. Unfortunately, today was not your day, which hey, is what it is.
Unfortunate.
It is
Yeah.
indeed, yeah. One thing I was curious about personally was that you've had to make a lot of comebacks, right? The split already, and generally throughout your entire career as well too.
Yeah.
What I want to understand personally from you is that from a IGL perspective, right, is that does your mentality, how you call and how much you actually made around change in terms of the pressure that you guys are usually placed upon, whereas to when you're playing from an advantageous position?
You definitely gain momentum when things are going your way, and I think that's a big confidence boost for my calling
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a lot more assertive in what I'm saying, and maybe my voice tone is a little bit different, I would assume, just based off how I'm saying things. But so yeah, I think that's a natural thing. But if I'm in a disadvantageous position, I still think I'm good at figuring out what's happening and trying to solve the problem, which is what I love about esports and competing in the first place is
Mm-hmm.
you have to solve a problem every single round and try to outplay to the best of your ability. And I think it just comes down to like I think that for me is the beauty of the game.
Yeah.
And it's why I do what I do as an IGL. But you're gonna have days like this where things genuinely just suck completely, and there's nothing that you can do about it. There's nothing anyone can say to you to make you feel better about it. It's just
Mm-hmm.
there's no real excuse for it either because your practice is going so well, and you're doing everything right. It feels like you're doing everything right. So that's again the beauty of the game. You just still can lose regardless of what situation you're in, who you are. You can still lose at any given day where things don't work out the way that like even on like one or two rounds,
Mm-hmm.
and then snowballs. So yeah, just going back to my calling style, I think it does sort of change. I try to play a little bit. I just try to figure out what's happening every single round and try to figure out the best solution to the problem, or
Mm-hmm.
try to predict what the opponent's going to do next based off what they did previously. I would say that's a lot easier when you're at an advantage because you're just so confident in your next call because you feel like you're reading them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we've been putting ourselves in too many of those disadvantageous positions, and some of it's unlucky, to be honest. Like for example, Adam. I think two of my teammates got spammed before fucking barriers went down, bro. Like I was like, come on,
Yeah.
like he's going around, that kind of stuff happens, and so yeah. But to be fair, it's inexcusable. I mean, it is what it is. Obviously, there's something that we need
Mhm.
to do differently. Um, routine wise, maybe I don't know what it is, but these slow start. Obviously, we understand that these slow starts can't continue, and there's no real excuse. But we are doing everything we can to remedy the issues.
Yeah, I do remember there was that half on bind where I think was it Adam had probably the unluckiest like half, bro. Like
Yeah,
which is yeah, that just fucking sucks. Like you just can't do anything about it. You're playing 4v5, like a minute,
yeah.
and then you're like, well shit, I
Even
guess.
like winning the pistol because they didn't defuse in time, and then getting ecoed immediately after that when we have a huge advantage in the eco round. And
Hmm.
these kinds of things just genuinely should not be happening to a team like us, a team as drilled as we are. Just doesn't happen normally. It shouldn't happen. And I think a lot of it just comes down to our discipline in
Hmm.
matches. I think sometimes we feel like we're gonna. I don't know if this is true because I'm not gonna speak for my teammates, but sometimes it feels like we are so confident in what we're doing that people start to individually start doing and calling things and calming things and making decisions that lead to the round slowly falling apart. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Whereas we have a lot of set things that we can fall back on, which
Hmm.
feels like a lot of the times we don't fall back on those things. And, it just comes down to being disciplined and understanding that every opponent is strong as hell and you have to treat it's not even that we're underestimating. It sounds like what I'm saying is we're underestimating the opponent, but it's more the decisions that are so confident, like, okay, fight this, now fight this, now fight this. Even though we're doing it together, a lot of the times it's necessary to play the post plan out.
Hmm.
And the decisions that we're making are so overly aggressive because my teammates are just so confident in themselves. And, most of the time that's not an issue. But in this case, it definitely bit us for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, it became interesting as I guess the lights also fall on you in the interview.
Yeah, everything's going wrong today.
Yeah, tough. You can't see much more recovery on that, bro. I
Yeah.
remember I did try to ask about people, and just a quick word from you on this too, where I wanted to ask people on what they perhaps wanted to ask you as well too, and a lot of it was on like stuff about changes and calling and so on too, which I felt was like that's all fine and done, and that'll be seen. But one thing that I noticed a trend of was that people constantly just rag on you for, and I've been harping on you for since last year. I remember right has been like as you know has been like your KDA and your ability to perform in games, right? I
Mhm.
don't necessarily care about how well you manage to do, right? It's like, but then more so mine is like, do you think just the amount of I find backlash and criticism, or even just memes you get about it too, is it fair?
Yeah, I mean, I compete. And anyone who competes and doesn't perform will get criticized, and then that might be through memes, that might be through you know people just genuinely hating you because they're a fan of the team and they want them to succeed or
Mhm.
whatever. That's just going to happen, and I think I've proven that. To me, okay, is more like I don't take it personally because it is what it is. Like, I think anyone that's a fan of a team or whatever wants to see them do well, and then when they see a specific player underperforming, they're going to say something about that player, whether that's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, cut them," or find someone else, whatever. And I think that those are very. I think that's pretty normal. I don't take a like. It sucks to see, but I mean, what am I going to do about it, right? Just got to play better. So, like I said, there's no excuses to be made for example, my performance today.
Mhm.
Just couldn't get into it at all. Um, and that's just on me. So can't really blame anyone else except you. And I think that's the other thing I love about competing is at the end of the day, it is on you.
Right.
And if you play poorly, then it's going to reflect and you're going to get shit for it. So,
Uh,
for example, even last week, Bustio had a bad game versus us. So he got shit on. And
yeah.
the same thing's going to happen to me. And I think that that's honest. I don't even know if I don't know if it's warranted, but it's definitely something that I expect to happen. I think the game is at a level where like people are gonna have their opinions, and it is what it is.
Mhm.
Um, but most of the time, they're not even wrong. Like I shouldn't be playing that badly. I definitely shouldn't, uh, you know, be putting myself and my team in the position to be able to play that bad. So yeah, no real excuses there. Just got to be better.
Yeah, because I mean, to be fair, you're not bad at the game. I remember, like,
Yeah,
like was it like 4 days ago, bro? You were on heater. You were top fragging. It was.
I think I think it's more so just how the game goes. I think every game is its own story, and sometimes the games don't go in the way in the direction that is ideal for specific players. For example,
Sure.
Sam was having a slow Haven, and he's an
Hmm.
insane Haven player most of the time, and that's just gonna happen. It's just like I said, it's the beauty and the curse of the game.
Hmm.
It's just gonna be like that sometimes. And for me, I guess as an IGL or not, it's something that I need to work on. Like I can't have those kinds of games. Period. There's no excuse for it, and I just got to
Yeah.
find a better, I guess, a better routine or whatever to be more consistent as an individual, even when things aren't going our way. Um, but yeah,
Okay. And finally, uh, do you miss being having so many lights and like just people and just everything kind of be pointing at you? Like back when you used to play on like CLG and then TSM and then CLG again at the
do
next.
I miss those months?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Sorry. So do you miss like kind of like not necessarily having every light and eye on you whenever you play?
Ah, like the underdog thing.
Yeah.
Like your team doesn't have as high expectations. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the easiest. Of course. I mean, you're always gonna miss that because you have nothing to lose when you play those games and you have no expectations. Like people just expect you to lose, so you're just it's always you're trying to prove something every day.
Hmm.
And I think when you have expectations all of a sudden now you have to maintain them, and if you don't, you're gonna obliterate it on Reddit, Twitter, whatever, Instagram, whatever, and like I said, it is what it is. It's just how the game is. That's how sports are.
Hmm.
You know, if a top player that's expected to do well doesn't, then he's gonna get shit on for it, and I think that's a very normal thing. But yeah, I mean, for sure, there's times where I do miss the old times where my team wasn't expected to do all that well, and we'd still like persevere through and like power through. But I also like this. It's a challenge, like I said. Every day is a challenge. Every new team is a challenge, and you just got to
Hmm.
find a way to work it out.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
hopefully we're able to do that this year.
I hope so as well, man. I mean, if anything, as I said before, the season is long, although the break is rough, but I'm sure it's something that you haven't bounced back from before, though. But I appreciate your time as always, and thank you for being so open and honest with me, man. Good luck to
Appreciate it,
y'all,
man.
bro. And I'm excited to see y'all again soon, bro. GG's. Take care.
Thanks.